Alright everyone, it's finally time to talk about Lies of P. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time now, so super excited to finally make it. One of the best Souls-likes to enter the genre, and the only one I feel that can actually compete with From Software games, but this video isn't about that. What I want to talk about is the DLC that's coming this summer, Lies of P Overture, and how this DLC will complete the Lies of P experience. For me, Lies of P was more than just a surprise hit. It's one of the few games that managed to capture that same haunting atmosphere, precise combat, and cryptic but emotional storytelling that made the Soulsborne formula iconic, while still carving out its own identity. It's tight, it's brutal, and it's beautiful in a way that feels tragic and honest, and now with the upcoming Overture DLC, Lies of P is gearing up to not just expand its world, but to resolve it. In this video, I'm going to break down what Lies of P is for anyone new to it, share why it became one of my favorite entries in the genre, and dig into everything we know and everything we can theorize about Overture, the story it might finally complete, and why I believe this DLC could elevate the game from great to unforgettable, even though to me it's pretty much unforgettable at this point. If you're new to Lies of P, here's a short version. It's a twisted gothic reimagining of Pinocchio set in the decaying, plague-ridden city of Krat, a place inspired by the Belle Epoque era, filled with lavish architecture, broken machines, and horrifying secrets. And if you haven't read The Adventures of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi, you should. There's nothing wrong with reading children's stories as an adult. Honestly, a lot of them have surprisingly deep lessons that still resonate. I've read my fair share of fairy tales. I've got 3 kids, so it kind of comes with the territory. That said, Pinocchio is a lot darker than many fairy tales, so I haven't introduced them to that one just yet. If you're curious, I've got a full video essay linked in the description, and it'll be at the end of this video as well, that breaks down the book and explores how its themes connect with Lies of P. Definitely worth checking out, but anyways, I digress. Lies of P was developed by Round 8 Studio and NeoWiz and released back in September of 2023. You play as a puppet, not a fragile marionette, but a deadly clockwork warrior with a mysterious past. You're caught between a full-scale puppet uprising and a grotesque disease that's mutating humans into something far worse. This disease is known as the petrification disease. At its core, Lies of P is a Souls-like. You've got tight stamina-based combat, perfect dodge and parry windows, punishing enemies, and brutal boss fights, but what sets it apart is how it refines the formula. The systems are smoother, progression is more intuitive, and it respects your time in a way a lot of other entries in the genre don't. Don't get me wrong, I love a game with good environmental storytelling, and this game has a lot of that still, but the story is definitely easier to follow. Now, there are still some questions I have regarding the story, and I'm hoping Overture will resolve those questions, but more on that in a little bit. It's around 30 hours long, with multiple endings and a lot of lore to find throughout the world, blending fairy tale surrealism with grounded, tragic horror. You'll meet grieving mothers, mad scientists, revolutionaries, and monsters who may have once been men. I will also read the sales pitch for this game. You're a puppet created by Geppetto, who's caught in a web of lies with unimaginable monsters and untrustworthy figures standing between you and the events that have befallen the world of Lies of P. You're awakened by a mysterious voice that guides you through the plagued city of Krat, a once lively place that has been poisoned by madness and bloodlust. In our Souls-like, you must adapt yourself and your weapons to face untold horrors, untangle the unfathomable secrets of the city's elites, and choose whether to confront predicaments with the truth or weave lies to overcome them on the journey to find yourself. For me, this game immediately stood out. The melancholic music, the puppet designs, the atmosphere, it all hit harder than I expected. I played my fair share of Souls-likes, but Lies of P gripped me more than most, and honestly, I think it's one of the best places to start if you've never played a game like this before. It's tough, but it's fair, focused, and it never wastes your time. No doubt the combat is one of the highlights of Lies of P. If you played Souls-like before, you'll feel right at home, but even if you haven't, the game does a phenomenal job easing you in without compromising its intensity. You've got a wide arsenal of weapons, and what makes them special is that they're modular. Every weapon has 2 parts, a blade and a handle, and you can mix and match these freely. It rewards experimentation, and the combinations feel meaningfully different. Then there's the Legion arms. These are mechanical prosthetic arms you equip that give you unique abilities. My favorite is the puppet string, a Legion arm that can release a wire. It can be strung around an enemy to drag it towards you or to move you toward it. The upcoming DLC looks to be adding a couple more that we will dive into in just a sec. Consumables also play a big role, and don't sleep on these. They are incredibly powerful and not your ordinary gameplay filler. Now let's talk about the P organ system. The P organ is your skill tree, and it's one of the smartest progression systems I've seen in the genre. It lets you tailor your build toward your preferred playstyle, more healing, faster stamina recovery, longer dodge iframes, or even special perks like regaining health on perfect guards. Speaking of which, parrying and dodging are everything, as you would expect in a game like this. You can dodge, sure, but the real mastery comes from learning how to perfect guard. Time it right, and you'll deflect all damage, even break an enemy's weapon mid-fight. It's risky, but the payoff is enormous, and once you get into the rhythm, it feels incredible. Everything in Lies of P's combat is built to make you feel skilled. It pushes you to learn, but never feels cheap. Every enemy is a puzzle, and every victory, even the small ones, feels earned. And that's honestly why I believe the Souls-like genre is so loved by so many people. It's a genre that gives you several problems, but these problems can all be solved in multiple ways. And that freedom and creativity is not something you can find in other gaming genres. So yeah, if you haven't already, go play this game. It's fantastic. Now let's talk about Overture, the upcoming DLC that isn't just an extra chapter, but a full-blown expansion to the Liza P experience. Overture is a prequel set before the events of the main game, and it's not short. According to NeoWiz, it's going to offer 15 to 20 hours of new content, and that's for experienced players. We're talking new bosses, new weapons, new areas, new Legion arms, and most importantly, answers. This DLC is supposed to address some of the biggest narrative mysteries the base game left hanging, including what really happened in the early days of Krat's downfall. But what's even more interesting is that the devs are calling Overture the complete experience they originally envisioned for Liza P. This isn't just tacked on fan service, it's the missing half of the story, and it's built to connect directly into the base game. From what we've seen, Overture's setting is a total shift. It takes place in a wintry version of Krat, a city that feels like it's still clinging to life, not quite the crumbling wasteland we explored in the main game. We see living animals, something completely absent before. There's a cat, a fox, and even a museum with animals like a mammoth. That might seem small, but it's a big change in the atmosphere and tone. The DLC looks to double down on the themes of mutation, with new enemy designs that lean heavily into body horror, bloated forms, twisted limbs, and disease-ridden puppets that seem barely functional, yet more aggressive than ever. And then there's her, a mysterious woman seen using what looks to be the same remote control device Geppetto used to command the nameless puppet. She's clearly positioned as a major antagonist. As for thoughts on who she might be, or what her motives are, put them in the comments below. I don't really know, and I'm curious as to what you all think. Here's the pitch for this DLC. Cross the bounds of time in Liza P Overture, a dramatic prequel that transports you back to Krat and its unseen grandeur on the verge of collapse. Follow the path of the legendary stalker, uncover hidden secrets, and endure relentless battles that will define the past and future of Liza P. Now, this legendary stalker's name is Leia. The developers told us this during the interview with GameSpot, and we actually have some information on her that can be found in the base game. But before we talk about that, we need to break down the trailers, of which both have scenes with her in it. So the first trailer we got was the Overture announcement trailer. This came loaded with clues, both about gameplay and the narrative direction of this DLC. This is the trailer that showcased a more lively Krat with the animals and the snowy atmosphere. It also showcased the mysterious woman. She looks to be a puppet master such as Geppetto. The puppet she commands wields a giant staff and has metallic wings. She mentions P is not the puppet she was expecting. So is there another puppet out and about that we might run into? I don't know. We also get glimpses of a tusked creature seemingly affected by the petrification disease, bursting out of an egg-like structure held together by massive anchors. Whatever that thing is, it reminds me of the fallen Archbishop from the base game, possibly an early prototype of those same experiments. And again, we're introduced to a legendary stalker, who we now know is Leia. This same character appears in both this trailer and the story trailer, helping P during a fight, and we know she holds a primary role in the narrative. And we saw a ton of new gear. A horn that might act as a summon or support item. It even shows Alidoro appearing when it's used. A claw weapon, which is all I needed to see, honestly. At least 2 new swords, both a one-handed and two-handed. A double-barrel shotgun Legion arm, and a bow and arrow Legion arm, which will absolutely be awesome. But speaking of Alidoro, let's talk theories. In the base game, the Alidoro we know is actually Parrot in disguise, a con artist who stole the real Alidoro's identity after killing him. By the time P finds him, he's already working with the alchemist, selling people out and hiding behind a mask of nobility. Eventually we kill him, and Hugo takes on the role as the Hound of Krat and vows to do better. This DLC is a prequel though, and we eventually see Alidoro in the trailer, which means this might be the real Alidoro. We could finally see him before Parrot killed him, maybe even witness that betrayal firsthand. Personally, I think this is absolutely the real Alidoro. There's no way Parrot would actually come and help us if we called for him, and we don't want to work with that doofus anyways. In the original Pinocchio story, Alidoro was a dog who saved Pinocchio from danger. And this scene, where P calls for help and Alidoro leaps through the window, looks like a direct reference to that moment. We also get glimpses of more new bosses. One is a human stalker wearing a gas mask with ram horns, infected by the disease and wielding a massive 2-handed hammer. Another looks like a fish humanoid hybrid twisted by the petrification disease. And then there's this giant troll-like creature dragging a wrecking ball. The Overture story trailer opens with a woman who we now know is Leia, walking through the snowy ruins of what looks like a recently devastated area. She stops beside a fallen body, someone clearly significant to her, marked only by the letter M stitched onto their jacket. P appears and returns a pocket watch to her, likely belonging to the person who has just died. At first, many believe this woman to be Isabel Menad, the elusive mother of Sophia and wife of Valentinus Menad. However, it has now been confirmed that this woman is actually Leia, a character briefly mentioned in the base game. Leia was the person Carlo, Geppetto's biological son, once approached to train him for combat, she refused, knowing the burden and cost of the path he wanted to walk. Now, in Overture, Leia steps into the spotlight for the first time. This certainly positions Leia as a central figure in the DLC's narrative, someone driven by loss, duty, and possibly guilt. Ultimately, Overture appears to be not just an expansion of Lies of P's story, but a deepening of its emotional core, one where once again loss, legacy, and vengeance intertwine. In a recent video from the game's director, the team behind Lies of P made it clear Overture is the complete experience of Lies of P. This isn't just extra content. According to the developers, this is the missing piece, the part of the puzzle they couldn't include due to timeline constraints during the original development cycle. In their words, the Overture DLC is what Lies of P was always meant to be. That's a bold statement, and one that raises immediate questions, because if Overture is meant to complete the experience, then what exactly is incomplete in the base game? Well, a lot. Even after rolling credits in Lies of P, I still had many questions. What really happened at the Monad charity house, and what caused the death of Valentinus Monad, Sophia's father? Where is Isabel Monad, Sophia's mother? What were the alchemist's true goals? What is Ergo really, and how exactly is humanity measured in P, and what does it really mean for his transformation? On top of that, there's the larger mysteries, things like Paracelsus, Real Agenda, and the Ruby Slipper girl teased in the post-credit scene. But those are clearly reserved for the sequel, with Overture being a prequel. Those threads won't be resolved here. And again, one of the major figures at the heart of Overture is Leia, the legendary stalker seen in both the trailers. In the base game, Carlo, Geppetto's biological son, begs a woman named Leia to train him in swordsmanship. She refuses, brushing him off and having Gemini escort him away. If this is the same Leia, and all signs point to it, her role in the DLC could be far more personal than we first assumed. We already know she eventually finds Carlo's corpse after he succumbs to the petrification disease. Overture may explore what that moment meant for her, not just as a stalker, but as someone grappling with guilt and loss. Her presence could tie directly into unanswered threads surrounding Carlo's death, the Monad Charity House incident, and the alchemist experiments. If so, she isn't just a mythic figure anymore, she's a character with emotional stakes, potentially mirroring or even shaping P's journey in ways we haven't seen before. Leia is described as a stalker who walks her own path, neither a sweeper nor a bastard, but something entirely her own. She's also revealed to be the original owner of Gemini, the mechanical companion who aids P in the base game. That makes her not just a side character, but a central figure in the technological and emotional lineage that led to Pinocchio's awakening. And she's on her own quest, revenge, but for what exactly? Likely the Monad Charity House incident, the death of Carlo, and perhaps the truth about the alchemist. All of this ties directly into the lingering questions fans have had since the credits rolled. Importantly, the developers are making sure Overture isn't treated as a disconnected prologue. The new weapons and mechanics introduced in the DLC can be used in the base game. The story is meant to seamlessly interweave with the original experience. Overture is not Lies of P 1.5, it's the completion of the original game, developed alongside it, and now being released as the final piece of its vision. Also confirmed, Dorothy will not appear in Overture, reinforcing that Overture is still firmly rooted in the Lies of P timeline. Dorothy's story, teased in the post-credits, is clearly being held back for the proper sequel. So while Overture won't answer everything, especially the sequel hooks, it is poised to bring closure to the original story if it can unveil the truth behind the Monad family tragedy, give depth to Leia's past, and expand on the nature of Ergo and humanity. Lies of P was already one of the best Souls-likes I played, stylish, brutal, and unexpectedly emotional, but Overture, this might elevate it to something even more special if it truly delivers on what the devs have promised: tighter combat, new music, deeper lore, and a real sense of closure. We could be looking at one of the most complete and rewarding experiences the genre has ever seen. Let me know in the comments what's one mystery you hope Overture will solve, and if you've never played Lies of P, I highly recommend it. And again, if you want to know more about how the book and the game relate, check out the video in the description. Remember to take excellent care of yourself, call someone you love, and goodbye!